And there you have it, those Epsilon Esports boys, now known as Panthera. They had a great run last year. They're looking to repeat again this year. And as you can see from the tournament so far, they've got one more set to play against the challengers that faced them at World Championships.
This is a rematch from SWC Season 2. Enemy got destroyed, honestly, 3-0 in that matchup at World Finals here. But this one is a new enemy lineup. And I have to go back and talk about that video a little bit. Adapting, you heard him crush the opponents.
And to be fair, it was all of them that said that by the sounds of it.
This kid, Adapting, not only loves Smite, but he loves winning, right? I was talking to him a little bit about DreamHack, and I mean, he just loves playing so much. He enjoys it. He just loves being in the spotlight. He wears his SWC ring around everywhere, actually.
Well, this time last year, Panthera basically had just come off the back of the summer split where they didn't do so well. iRaffer got himself banned, and it meant they never made it to the LAN at the end of the day, and then they were heading to the fall split at this moment in time, just hoping to have the shot going to Worlds. And now look at them, world champions, respected by North America, Europe, and the world.
And the respect is the big thing, because North America and Europe have always had this kind of banter between them where it's like, our region is best. North America has never respected a team as much as they respect Panthera. You cannot ask those guys to say how they can beat Panthera and them feel confident about it. Everyone is worried.
We'll talk about respect, and immediately enemy take Alquang off the table here. Not a surprise to see that one taken away after Adaption's performances in 2 games on it, and the standard Fafnir. But Freya just slipped through here.
And Freya is something that emilitoo really likes to hover, and we haven't really seen PandaCat utilize that god. If he goes to a mage, it's primarily Soul. I don't expect Panthera to obviously pick it up this early, but the Nemesis is a great start onto Adapting.
Now these two obviously went to the World Championships, met in the finals, and Panthera found the 3-0 against enemy here. But this enemy lineup's a little bit different this time round. Obviously, a couple of replacements joining them for this one.
And look at PainDeViande, right? He's one of the 2 remaining members along with Khaos. He is very happy and confident right now. He is the general to this team, and he is already barking orders around picks and bans. He said it himself in that Vice documentary, right? We don't really beat the teams with our just individual skill. It comes from picks and bans and strategically in-game.
Well, let's see how well the strategy forms for this one. It's going to be Erlang, Shen, and Ho Yi for PandaCat as well for the side of enemy. Now, also going to this, remember, boys and girls at home, Panthera, they're already through to tomorrow. However, both these games matter. If they 2-0 here, Panthera, it's Paradigm that join them in the finals, their fellow EU brethren. However, if enemy finds a win or 2, they'll either go through or tie things up with Paradigm.
And that last if enemy and Paradigm split here, enemy and Panthera split here, we will have one more match to close out the day. It's going to be a tiebreaker between those 2 squads, and it's going to be a pretty iconic rematch here. Picks and bans, though, Bacchus and Xing locked in for Panthera. We saw Dimi pick this up in the first game of the day.
Up against Paradigm there as well, so they should know where that's going, especially with the Bacchus locked in as well. 2 frontline Guardians, as well as the shred of protections coming up from Nemesis, will assist this team.
Enemy here looking for their last pick in the second ban phase. They could look to draft into their support right now, because if they don't, you can expect Panthera to start banning out kind of that Guan Yu and Sobek that Pain really relies on once his options have been limited.
And that's a really good point to mention there. You do see the Agni locked in for Khaos once more. The rise of Agni, is it coming back? I mean, to be fair, it's mainly the only Khaos that we've seen run it.
And we haven't really seen Khaos have a good game yet. Game 1, obviously, they lost earlier on. And then Game 2, right, into Paradigm, he got picked off by an Odin cage so often in that game. And it was an unfortunate matchup for him, but it is true that Agni has not seen a good tournament so far, or a good showing in a while.
When you mentioned Khaos as well here, he's such an integral part of this enemy lineup. He's the most killing person on his team, 132 from last split. As well, he's the one that gets most of the first bloods. He's on 4 for the season.
And he kind of developed into that. I think the last year's enemy, the team that faced off against Panthera, was kind of spearheaded by Vicium and Benji at the time, then known as Salt Machine. And since they've left the team, PandaCat and Khaos specifically have really stepped up, and between them have been the primary carries.
Well, we mentioned support bans for Panthera being a thing, but what they do want to do is take Bastet off the table. Make sure Shattered doesn't get it. If you don't know who Shattered is, it's Verizial. But his Bastet, very, very nuisancey to deal with.
Nuisancey is definitely the word to talk about. He really likes to.
Word, but we'll go with it,
he really likes likes to gank those immobile mages in mid or soul laners, which they don't expect. We saw it earlier. He's willing to find these early ganks in the soul lane that most people do not expect and then take their towers early. We also saw the 2.5-minute Gold Fury with it, and that's just something that Panthera don't want to deal with.
I think we're going to see a Thor coming out from enemy here. I don't really see Shatter doing anything really crazy here.
I think Thor Guan would be a pretty nasty composition. Obviously, the Thor going to help you have a little bit of pressure against the Nemesis early on. You do have to potentially worry about a mage that's going to be a little bit different here on the side of Panthera. Scylla might not be that bad, though we don't really see them run that composition too often.
Well, you see Marauder on your screen there in the middle, and he's got that Erlang Shen for himself more than likely, and there's Khepri for PainDeViande.
And this is one of his go-tos from last split. We haven't seen it too much, or excuse me, last year. We haven't seen it too much this year, but definitely a guy he's comfortable with. And I completely forgot that this is Panthera we're talking about, so Freya and a Hunter could be the options here as well. Probably like probably a Chiron. Oh no, it was banned out, excuse me.
I mean, this is Panthera right now hovering over AMC. I'm not too worried about this one really getting picked up at this stage. If they do, they kind of do have the front line to protect it, I want to say here, but I don't suspect to see it.
You can see Yammyn's face. I don't know if he's too happy about this. He seems a little bit worried. AMC more than likely not going to go through.
At the same time, I mean, Panthera, they don't need to win these games. They're guaranteed to go through to tomorrow right now. They may take the fourth, I guess, a little bit, but that's not normally Panthera's style.
This is EU pride for them. Panthera wants an all-EU final. They're going to go hard. They definitely want to rematch enemy, find that 2-0, and force themselves. But here's the Skadi pick from emilitoo. We don't see it often, but we do see it.
Now, the Khepri pick, obviously, we see the Thor at the end there for Shattered. Not really a surprise there, but the Khepri is what I'm going to talk about here, because Jigs obviously didn't go back to it, and he's one of the biggest Khepri, players.
He's a Khepri main
in North America, but he was saying himself he doesn't feel Khepri strong enough right now, but we see that Pain clearly wants to run it back.
And this is just kind of one of Pain's style, right? He is all about putting his players in a position to win. And with this, he's going to be able to assist Agni specifically. If Khaos gets into any trouble, especially with this Nemesis Bacchus front line that are going to look to dive him and the pressure from Isis in the mid lane, the Khepri revive could be critical in those early game team fights.
It seems like Panthera's got a strategy of generally looking like they're going to all in with those two Guardians and the Nemesis and leave Isis and Skadi to semi-peel for themselves for the most part. The one thing you don't want to do with Panthera is get into skirmishes in the jungle. It's just not wise to do. We saw that with Saw.
Anytime you fight 3v3, you're relying very heavily on your mechanics and less about your team composition, and that is what Panthera shine at. Their 3v3 core specifically, not even talking about iRaffer, talking about Yammyn adapting, their synergy is so on point at all times. You cannot take a fight straight up with them, because even if you have a winning 2v2 or 3v3, they will outplay you.
And you mentioned as well there, actually it's not Saw in the top right-hand corner, guys. We'll get that changed for you in a moment. It is going to be enemy. And you mentioned, PainDeViande on the side of enemy there. They talked about the fact that they're very tactical. They're all about outpicking and outplaying their opponents. Very similar to what I want to say Paradigm strategies are as well. You saw that tactical game against Saw that went so well
very
for them.
Slow pace.
But if they get into skirmishes against the likes of Panthera, it's not the easiest thing to deal with.
An enemy like to team fight. They like these big 4v4, 5v5 team fights. They love to group. They've got a really high amount of assists in every single game, and they're pretty spread out throughout the team as well. Marauder always willing to rotate anytime it's called for him, and that's something that enemy are gonna have to look to do, but also be a little bit careful at. They're probably more looking for these mid-game power spikes, just want to survive this Isis pressure in the early.
Well, at the very start of the game there, you could see how passive enemy were. They were late coming out of base on purpose because the engage from Panthera at level 1 is just so strong to find a pick. And because of that, iRaffer got a very deep ward in on that left-hand side to see everything that those people have got and where they're going to begin.
This probably isn't going to be an invade, though. We don't really see Panthera having the composition to do that. Erlang, Shen, and Thor versus Xing and the Nemesis, not going to be the strongest, so just wants to get that vision, and really it's all about the rotations.
I think the big key there is Marauder and Shattered definitely have the 2v2 matchup in the early game against a Nemesis and Xing. If anything, we could see the enemy boys are the ones to look for an invade if they want to, but with those deep wards on the right-hand side that you could see there, you could clearly tell that Panthera would know what was going on.
Speaking of invades, I'm actually really excited to see Shatter out on this Thor, excuse me. So when enemy first picked him up at the beginning of the spring split, he had a very dynamic god pool. I think in the first 10 to 12 games, we saw 9 different gods from him. But the longer we transitioned into the spring split, he really became a Thor main. We saw him play it so much more frequently, and I love this god on him because he is a role player on this team. It's not his job to go off and carry. He is going to do whatever PainDeViande designates him to do.
And if anything, he's the sacrificial lamb that enemy like to use here. His stat line for Shattered here, 86 deaths, the highest on his team last split. And that kind of plays into the fact that he will go in. He will die for the team to make sure they find the win.
He's really just about the setup for Khaos and PandaCat specifically. And sometimes he even shifts into trying to gank the soul lane, look to get Marauder ahead or relieve a little bit of pressure off him if he doesn't have a winning matchup. And also, when it comes to peeling, he is probably the second in line to do it after PainDeViande. If PainDeViande is on a god like a Guan Yu where he's gonna, hard initiate, typically we'll see Verizial sit back and make sure his carries don't get dove.
Well, when I look at the lineup of enemy in this game as well, the issue they've got is Khepri's very defensive, so he's going to rely a lot more on Shattered to be the engager for this team with that Thor. They do have the Erlang Shen as well, and the Agni bombs to assist in that, but predominantly it's going to be down to Thor to initiate.
A lot of the times in this fight too, like you said, it's going to be on this Agni to follow up off that. Same with PandaCat, they're going to be the primary damage sources, though Agni takes a little bit too long to get online in this early game, especially up against the Nemesis. I really expect Panthera to run run full control on the 3v3, at least at the start here, really pressure that ISIS to get those back harpies, and it's up to enemy to either concede or make sure their positioning isn't too bad that they're going to get picked off.
And ISIS in the early game, still the same old ISIS we used to see. And I think the funny thing is we saw the Agni pick before the ISIS as well. And ISIS into Agni, early game ISIS controls for the most part, but once Agni gets those bombs online, his ultimate, he can just consistently stun those Wingus out.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that the Agni is just being picked up so frequently. I obviously like Agni when he's played and when he's played appropriately, but bringing him out 3 times so far this tournament, I wonder if, Panthera, if they were watching those games, they're going to know what Khaos is looking to do. There's no surprise factor here.
Well, we talk about surprise factor. Khaos in the mid lane, he always seems to just go to a couple of gods every time. Generally, we saw at the World Championships, he was mainly on Zhong Kui.
And an Agni. It was Zhong Agni at the time.
And now this tournament, well, it's mainly been Agni out of him so far.
We saw a lot of Giannis in the split. Was it banned out? I don't think it was this time.
I've seen it banned today, but I don't think it was specifically against enemy and against Khaos for the most part here. Guys, they're just getting themselves ready here between this at the moment. A couple of tech issues, but it's all good to go any moment now between these two. Realistically though, Xing versus, Erlang Shen, how is that matchup going to play?
So this is how Tully breaks it down. Are you a warrior? Yes. Okay. Are you facing another warrior? Okay, you have some matchups. If you're facing a Guardian, you win, flat out. There's no Guardian right now that really beats any warrior. There's a couple awkward matchups, but Erlang Shen is expected to control this early game. Obviously, Xing is just looking to farm. He's likely going to go the Vanguard into the CDR boots, into the Breastplate of Valor, and it's really about making sure that Panthera don't lose their jungle camps in that first spawn of them.
And Dimi as well. He's not really too bothered about dying. We saw him get soloed a couple of times by Baskin in the last set, but at the same time, he still brought to that game exactly what you expect out of him. Control for his team, set up and peel.
Dimi's really good at remaining relevant, and I say that about a lot of the solo laners, because sometimes you'll see solo laners get ganked a couple times early. We saw Zalia as well fall to, I believe it was Thor at the time, 4 deaths in the early game, and then just their ability to keep farming out. Dimi, despite dying 4 times in that last match, actually was the same level as Baskin for most of it. So he does a really good job of managing to make sure his losses aren't too big.
It's scary because when you look at this, guys, here, this is a prelude to the Super Regionals where teams will go to the World Championships as well. And already just 2 from you, 2 from NA here today. You can see how close these games have been throughout. Panthera still edging it out just a bit as usual.
It's Panthera, right? They're the world champs, and honestly, Paradigm might have got a little bit lucky because they played Panthera in their first match. They did just come off of vacation, so I think Panthera might have needed that first set to warm up, but you saw them against Sword, just looked so clean, and that's something that enemy is going to have to worry about.
Well, one thing both teams have to worry about is stamina as well. These days are very long for these players. Panthera, as you can remember, beginning of the day, they had their first set, they just played Sword, and now they've got to come up against enemy as well. And they will play their hearts out, as per usual, but how much stamina is in the tank?
It's not easy, right? We talked to, I know, Barracuda in the past about playing best of 5s because not many SMITE teams do get to play best of 5s, and it really drains you out. Panthera have played 3, one going all 5 games against Cloud9, the other 2 being 3-0s. but it's still not that easy, and I think Panthera have that slight edge having played in those matches
But
before.
even those days, generally, you only have one best of 5 there, Adonis. Today's like today. These group stages are so much more pressured and so much more painful to have to go through because you could play the first match of the day and the last.
And that's actually exactly what Panthera is doing, so they're going to have a little bit of a test of stamina here. And us too. We actually, we did start the cast, and, and we're going to be ending the cast as well. But it's okay.
I hope
we're fine.
Maybe
we're
the cast doesn't end here, though.
Sometimes.
Maybe the cast doesn't end here. Maybe we get a tiebreaker at the end as well. If you're at home in Europe right now, I'm sure you're still tuning in. You've probably got your PJs on, cup of cocoa in hand as well. We should have a barn burner for you, that's for sure.
A Bart burner.
A
Bart barn burner.
You just wanted to get chat spamming bored, didn't you?
A little bit.
Good job.
Me and Tom got him spamming some stuff earlier. I don't know if they did it, but I'm sure we triggered them pretty hard.
Triggering chat is what we do for a living most of the time here between these two.
PogChamp.
Enemy, obviously, they lost 3-0 at the World Championships again. This was the last time those two teams faced off. Panthera so far today had a pretty good run. They defeated Saw 2-0 just about, even though that second game could have gone either way.
A little bit shaky.
And split with Paradigm. Meanwhile, Enemy, split with Paradigm, split with Saw, which shows like those 3 teams, other than Panthera, just got the edge on them, but it still seems
Here's
that
the thing about Enemy, though, is that we always talk about some teams that you can't ever count out. Old Cloud9 was very much like that, where even if they're down 5, even 10,000, they're always fighting back into it. Enemy's kind of turning into that team as well. They're very good at stalling out games that they get behind at. Their positioning is always phenomenal, and if someone's out of position, they'll just all in them. And that's like, okay, we have 60 seconds on that person's respawn where we know they're not going to be able to aggress as long as we don't get over anxious. So even though they're facing up against Panthera, if they can hold out to those late game scenarios where they shine, it's going to be very good for them.
Funny thing about today, though, is when you watch back through these games, boys and girls, you may find out that, well, at least in my opinion anyway, they weren't clean. Nobody was really clean today. There was a lot of silly mistakes that we saw go on, and maybe that's just because the level of competition is so high that we notice those mistakes more often.
I think that's one of it, too. And, these teams haven't played competitive Smite since DreamHack, so and it was a couple weeks break before that as well, so they might have been scrimming, but it's not the same as coming onto stage or playing SPL online, so kind of getting that rust off their gear so far. I expect tomorrow to be real fireworks though in the final. Between
the finals, and then following the finals as well, we still have the All-Stars match between North America and Europe as well, where the best of the best will compete, and only one can win.
NA's gonna win. North America's gonna win, man. We got Met Yankee. We got the best. We got the best hunter in North America.
This isn't the Olympics, okay?
According to Snoopy.
This isn't the Olympics.
Hey man, America wins in the Olympics. They're gonna win in the Smite All-Stars as well. Okay,
well, you might as well win one thing this year, right?
Yeah, we need one thing.
Just one thing.
Then because next year's...
It's the Great Hope, right?
Well, SWC is 2017, so we can win that too.
Well, this is the Great Hope for you going into Worlds, that at least you've got some sort of boom going in there. Like,
listen, man, NA dominated for a couple years. I will give Europe their reign of power for this year.
Okay.
But it's going to go back to NA in Season 3.
I'd like to see a shake-up. Although Panthera is
I want to
see
a Game 5 finals in SWC.
It'd be great to see a shake-up. Finally, into game we go. We had a bit of a remake there, boys and girls, as you can see, so iRaffer's going to head back out.
I bet you iRaffer had auto-buy on. DJ had auto-buy on a DreamHack?
I don't think iRaffer did have auto-buy on, but yes, DJ Pedicus did have auto-buy on.
So before we get going, though, fun fact is that multiple people had left their auto-buy on. DJ's the only one who said anything. Everyone else was going to keep quiet and just be stuck with it on.
Well, because you don't want to embarrass yourself, do you?
Well, DJ's probably raging. He probably bought something he didn't want to.
Well, what do you reckon he started with Death Toll or something?
Probably. He was like Death Toll jungler, right? Fenrir or something.
Emilitoo, leave the statue alone. What's he doing?
He's hitting the Minotaur for some reason. Maybe he's
trying. Demon King.
Yeah. Maybe he's trying to go back to OG Smite when there weren't Titans and there was the Minotaur that you had to kill as the final boss. Well, he's just praying to the old school Smite gods.
Wads are down once more from Panthera, and you can see they're relatively similar positions. Raffer's not got that deep one in this time with the red buff, though. He's got one at the left, and Harpy's here. A couple of pings going down from each team this time round as well, just to keep an eye.
What Raffer does have, though, is Wrath. And what they have in the mid lane, Panthera, that is an Isis. This is going to be a 3-minute or earlier Gold Fury from this team, as long as they can catch enemy on their backs. I expect, honestly, Panthera to look for that first Gold Fury when Shattered has his first back to base.
And the one thing to mention about that as well, he's taking into account minions. Oh, Raffer's going to go for the play. Here we go. Sun Touch, you watching it again? Is he here? The flop's on point.
Oh, he did it early!
Oh,
did he still get it with the meat stick? Oh, that is brutal.
He meat stick, you lucky bugger. I tell you, he nearly messed that one up bad.
That is so close. And so one of the main reasons this can happen is because Isis and Skadi have such good level 1 clear. You have Kaldir as well as just this Wind Gust doing some of the highest base damage of any magical ability. So they don't have to worry about Isis getting late to lane.
And not only that, it puts Khaos further behind the mid lane. You saw him use the Path of Flames there, but he could only hit the melee creeps. He couldn't hit the ranged ones with that because of the threat of Yammyn to putting more poke pressure on him because of the level lead.
Could see some fireworks here, though. Yammyn gonna Wind Gust and do a little bit of damage to Marauder, but fire elementals do go the way of enemies, so they do have that return at the very least, keeping the gold even.
So no red buff on the side of enemy here. Nobody from Panthera able to pick it up, though, so at least there's a bit of a benefit. The Bacchus isn't going to flop you for even more damage.
And, you know, no meditation either, I think, is one of the most important things, because we've seen iRaffer run this meditation in duo and just do so much damage. And speaking of damage, Yammyn poked out in this 2v2, not what you would expect as an Isis.
Yeah, that double tap actually hurt. If that would have connected from Shen, it could have been a different story, but left top is being contested here at the same time at the moment, and it does look like it went the way of the enemy boys there.
Hitting
so
level
they'll be
3.
quite happy as the Spirit Ball connects over the wall with a blind shot.
Nice little poke there. Dimi versus Marauder in the soul lane in the meantime. This is a matchup that should go in Marauder's favor. He also, he's gone Bluestone actually instead of the Death Soul, so doesn't have as much sustain, but is going to clear these waves a little bit faster.
Interesting though, because there's not that many abilities that are really going to come in handy with this Bluestone. I mean, generally it's the pin, right?
What I'm assuming is this is something that Marauder has mapped out, or someone has mapped out for Marauder, where Bluestone is going to clear the wave with pin completely at a certain level.
Well, Dimi at the moment clearing the wave out as best as he can. He's got the Vanguard online just to try and reduce some of the damage from the minions, and not just the minions, but Erlang Shen.
Also the Bluestone, some of that's going to be negated with that true damage reduction coming out from Vanguard. The only item in the game that has true damage reduction, actually.
Well, the Hunters here going for different builds as well. PandaCat starting things off here with the Death's Toll. Meanwhile, emilitoo rushing that Transcendence this time round.
You know, emilitoo's actually gone into a lot of Transcendences this tournament. We've seen him really focus on these high power builds. Even on the Cupid, he picked up a Crusher, although there was only like 2 Phoenixes left to siege. He just likes his abilities hitting very hard, and a lot of times he's not trying to get into the 1v1 boxing matches with basics.
Well, you're so shattered. Head over to the left-hand side a little bit there. Already level 5 is that Thor at the moment, trying to make a rotation. Doesn't find anything, so heads back to mid and meets up with Khaos, who also hits level 5 now.
This is honestly a very good early game from enemy. Against an Isis, and especially with an Agni in your mid lane, you have to be worried about the pressure into your back RPs. All that happened was they had a stolen red buff. Not too much to worry about. Since then, though, Khaos has been able to pretty freely free farm.
Well, the problem is I think level 5 should be reached by Panthera here just before enemy, just because the red buff steal from iRaffer, so there was less sharing going on and a little bit stolen away from enemy too. So enemy's just got to respect that in the duo lane a little bit, or we could see a couple of issues.
And no one's going to rotate over there
but
for
they hit
now.
level 5 first, so ignore
yeah,
me.
they're going to be fine. And
Yeah,
no early gold fear. I thought we potentially could see a level 3 one, but Panthera not in a good enough position to pick that up.
I was going to mention as well, Kaldir is in this game, and Kaldir can tank that gold fury for you as well. It's the same way Bastet with the cats comes in handy, just to reduce the damage done onto your team and allow for some free poke back.
And I like with this, what's happening here is that enemy are actually rotating their duo to clear the red. It is going to be shared with Shattered as well, but this is just to make sure that Panthera aren't going to steal it away. They're there when it spawns exactly, so they don't have to worry too much.
And I think Panthera spotted exactly what was going on there, so their duo lane also going to do the same thing here, head over and split this red buff as well, so trying to keep even keel.
Early game, very, very favorable for both teams right now. No one really getting a massive lead. Enemy has about 100 gold, but that's negligible at this point.
Well, if anything, it should be enemy the ones on the aggressive here, but at the moment, they're just farming it out. I guess they're back on the stage for the first time after a little break as well, so just warming themselves back up again. But this kind of plays into Panthera's favor. With that Nemesis, with the Skadi they just want to farm up, it'll come in handy, and obviously
I think both teams are looking for a little bit later to have the hard engage. Obviously, Shattered on this Thor wants to get things rolling early. You could see that he was trying to set up for a blue buff steal, but he's right on top of a ward right now, so Dimi knows exactly what's happening. Adapting as well. They're just going to face check each other in the jungle and walk off.
He's just using those walls for cover and trying to make sure he doesn't show vision until he really has to here. Over to the
good
so solo lane we go, and Dimi took a lot of free poke there from that double tap from Shattered.
And Marauder also on the opposite side of the wall there, and Panthera could have looked to hard engage that, but not going to be able to just because of the displacement there.
Interesting thing in the mid lane there, you see Yammyn's tower taking quite a bit of free poke pressure here early on, which is quite surprising against the Agni as well. Like, it just means the rotations coming out have been a little bit slower from Panthera to make sure they soak these waves up.
You're going to be slightly down in experience as well, only just hitting
Gecko
level
right
8.
inside, Dimi under a lot of pressure there. The double tap come up, but he gets away just in time. And the spin to win, not even needed really, but he does make sure they don't carry him
He
down.
had to do it this time, but look at this, Panthera, because of that aggression, going to go straight to the Gold Fury. There's the Ice Assault dropped as well. This Wrath is going to guarantee it for free. Panthera pick up the first Gold Fury, and Dimi avoids the gank.
And that was beautiful, because you saw what happened on the left-hand side. They knew for a fact PandaCat had gone back to base, and the right time to do it. Gives him a nice little gold spike, but as the Gold Fury goes on, it's worth more and more gold, so in the early stages, not as valuable as time goes on.
And this is what you see from this high-level play, right? And some of the other SPL games or during the online stages, you'll see a lot of pressure and ganks into the soul lane, but the other team doesn't really react. That's just how tenured Enemy and Panthera are. The second someone shows up on the wrong side of the map, and if you have the Wrath, you head straight for the Gold Fury, and they found their lead off of it.
I just found out the mid lane now, Panthera, as Enemy do take those right-hand harpies. The Hunters, meanwhile, over in the dual lane as per usual. You can see Ninja Tabby online for PandaCat here. Not a big difference in items, he's just chosen attack speed over the power spike that he gets.
Oh, look at this. Oh, I thought Panda was baiting for a second because Pan was around the corner, but he's just trying to take the 1v1 straight up. But
I mean, it's kind of hard to bait a Skadi as well of all things, because you can just throw that ultimate which will root you in place.
There's a lot of options for Skadi. Obviously, she doesn't have a traditional escape, but she has a couple things to help her get away. Speed buff, looking to be invaded. Raffer, his Wrath is down, so he can't take this for clean, and the Agni Bomb should secure it. Oh, no, Raffer stole it.
Wow, with the belch. You just timed the belch to perfection, and there, look at this. The boys of Panthera start to disengage as there's still 4 men here. It's Dimi, a little bit out of position, but going to ult to remove that route and try and disengage himself. The rest of Enemy invade into the jungle, looking for the pressure on Raffer and adapt him, but there's nothing to be had.
I think Pain's baiting himself a little bit here. He does have Shattered right around the corner, and Yammyn and Raffer know it. They don't full commit onto the bug. Instead, just back up into the mid lane for now. Make sure to split those waves.
The speed is available, and look at this. Enemy recognizing Shattered's going to stop the speed buff, but he's here alone at the moment. Pain's on the other side, and Raffer's going to push him out and make sure he's just zoned away from this.
He's actually low mana, so this is trouble for Raffer. He's going to be forced to intoxicate, but can't even get it off in time. Shattered already securing first blood, and he's going to come straight back down onto adapting.
Don't think that was the best call in the world, though, but luckily Pain's there with the ultimate to respond. First blood to Enemy in this game, and it was after, honestly, Raffer just dived in.
And that was honestly a fine ult from Shattered. You saw the Khepri ult from PainDeViande on top of it immediately after, but adapting, recognizing it, not popping the ultimate, and just disengaging overall also secures his speed buff. But Raffer there, I think it was a little bit surprised that Enemy caught him out, and we see Raffer do this a lot, where he kind of baits himself and forces the other team to initiate on him, but just not tanky enough at that moment.
A little bit disrespectful of how much damage they could do, I think. I just don't think he underestimated a little bit too much, and I don't think he knew Marauder was going to be there, as well as those massive bombs from Khaos.
And now Marauder, he's got an assist to his name, couple hundred gold lead in front of Dimi, and all's pretty even right now. After that early gold fury from Panthera, Enemy have wrestled the gold lead back in their favor.
Well, it's funny because the gold fury gave him a 600 gold lead, and then the first blood now gives the other team a 500 gold lead. So back and forth between the two, but Shattered clearly over on this right-hand side. He might be Shattered after today, but I'll tell you something, he's gamping a little bit onto Dimi here, and we saw that kind of focus coming out a little bit from Saw as well.
This time it's going to be a little bit more viable to gank the soul lane because the gold fury's still down. Obviously, the Wrath is not on cooldown anymore, but just 2 more seconds before it spawns, so you have that opportunity. You have those couple-minute windows to find the ganks in solo without having to worry about anything getting taken in return.
So it looks a little bit weird what Shattered's doing there, but he's actually getting experience through that wall. He is in range for that soak, so
just barely.
Khaos and PainDeViande showing themselves there means that he can get that experience from them clearing it out and keeps himself hidden from Panthera.
An Enemy actually looking like they're setting up for these mid-harpies. Verizial Shattered, his ult is back online, so he could look to engage here if anyone on Panthera steps out of position. Yammyn, though, he does have his boots now. He didn't earlier when those fights were happening, so I was a little bit worried for him, but now that he has the movement speed, he should be fine.
Well, Marauder got poked out a little bit there on the right-hand side, just hung around a lot, but he has gone for some magical defense here and going to head back to base one more time. No teleport available for him, though, so Demi will get a bit of free farm here, but he does finish off a Pestilence.
And we could see another invade from Panthera in the meantime, but They don't want to risk it just yet. Shatter takes to the sky, and I think the team's going to be looking for iRaffer.
I think they expected them to come in, and they do, you know. And iRaffer's in a lot of trouble here, but he still had the flop, and the turnaround is there as usual. Panthera find a kill. Pain's going to ult himself, but I don't think he's going to get out of this at all. Bomb is on the mark from Khaos, but it's not enough to detract them, chasing down Pain. Spirit Bolt off the mark. Pain gets out, and Panthera find the kill.
Dimi's rotation as well, forcing Khaos back to his tower, so enemy can't find the re-engage. It's going to be 1 kill in favor of Panthera, and possibly a stolen speed buff. Marauder still hanging around here, but Adapting's already picking it up. Stole it away, and trouble for Khaos, but emilitoo not electing to full commit just yet. And overall, just such a beautiful counter engage. That's what we were talking about. That's what iRaffer likes to do. He honestly likes to be the one attacked. We saw immediately the Isis ult popped on top of him, reducing so much damage. The heal as well, and just the counter initiation, adapting in the right place at the right time.
The one thing I'm so impressed about enemy, though, is they expected that engagement. So Thor goes up, expecting them to try and invade the speed buff, and they do catch him when they were coming towards the speed buff. Bad news is, though, Bacchus still has his flop, turns it around.
I think the team was looking for Yammyn more than iRaffer there. It just didn't happen to go in their favor. Yammyn actually was the one backing up further, was iRaffer, who kind of went in by himself, and so the Isis just out of range of the Thor ult.
Well, that Gold Fury has respawned, as have the left-hand Harpies, which are being looked at by iRaffer here as well, but those bombs from Agni will signal they go the way of enemy.
And with the Isis ult and Wrath down, I don't expect Panthera to really force this Gold Fury just yet. Probably going to wait another 30 seconds to a minute for those abilities to come back up, but once they are 100% going to at least bait Gold Fury.
You always know whether it's a farming game or not based off support levels, if anything else, because they're both at level 10 right now, which isn't something you'd normally see at this stage. You've seen a lot of action early on. The supports generally lose quite a bit of farm because of the rotations and things. And solo laners, you're looking at about a level per minute is what's normal in a very farm-orientated game.
And this is a farm-oriented, orientated game so far. Only 2 kills on the board, and both kind of these really nice counter engages. And now enemy, they're going to have control of the Gold Fury pit so far. Yammyn has just backed, so he's got a sentry in his inventory if he wants to take that away from them. But PandaCat's also got a sentry in his inventory, so probably going to be a little bit of ward battling going on here around the Gold Fury. Enemy need to make sure that Panthera can't sneak a second one.
Well, Dimi over on the right-hand side here. Level 13 now on this Xing 10. Gone for the cooldown reduction build we've seen out of him before here. Shoes of Focus, Breastplate of Valor. Make sure you can spam those abilities just a little bit more often.
Xing 10 is just such a tanky character, right? He has a lot of HP 5 in his base kit just from his passive, as well as multiple mobility options, so he doesn't need these typical tanky items that you would see out of solo
There's
laners.
a gank over here onto Marauder, who just went very deep and used his escape ability, and now Nemesis is going to come in and ult too. Taunt is on him, but immediately responded by Dimi, and this could be a lot of will to hurt for Marauder. This is clearly an opportunity for them to pick up a kill, and they will, and Shattered just a little bit too late to turn up.
And that was an opportunity for enemy to maybe look at the Gold Fury, but because of the Isis and the Wrath on iRaffer, they can't even go for it, right? Because enemy can, if enemy ganks the soul lane, they basically lose Gold Fury. But if Panthera ganked the solo lane, as long as iRaffer is still around, enemy can't force anything off of it. And this could be trouble for Shattered as well. His ult's down, same with his hammer. He's going to purify the slow just to get away, but knocked up. One more hit, Adapting finds it.
Not going to get out at all. Good work from Panthera to find another one there as well. Spirit Ball in mid connects from Yammyn. He just steps away slightly from getting stunned out by Khaos in response. You can see iRaffer waiting over the wall just to support him if required there. And go back to that right-hand side. That clearly was a tell that Dimi had told Marauder was clearly using his transformations to farm the wave, and every time he did it, he was like, yo, Nemesis, just come over and we'll pick up a free kill.
And I love this pickup of the curse as well, because it's so easy to know the timing on Erlang Shen's heal. It's only 5 seconds, so as long as you've played against him a couple times, right before the heal comes out, pop the curse. It's going to be reduced by 65%, and you saw Marauder barely have that tick up in health, when normally it's almost half his life.
And you actually mentioned Curse, but both of these solo lanes have picked up Curse this game as well. And the sustain coming out really from the side of Panthera, there's not that much other than really, is it Isis and Xing 10 they're really worried about that much?
I guess, right? Also, the slow can be really useful for making sure to get out, but Dimi, chasing someone out on the right-hand side, Adapting does have his speed buff stolen. Really nice play coming out from Khaos there, making sure to get something off of this game.
And Adapting couldn't do anything. Marauder here, bit of trouble there, had to ult as well just to give himself some sustain, and Dimi waited it out for the most part. Still,
Marauder
winning this engagement, actually forcing Shattered on the rotation.
And Dimi no ult here, so he's going to be chased down, but Marauder's on the wrong side of the wall, and he's actually just going to basic attack the minions. Doesn't think they're going to be able to confirm the kill. The pin is nice, but the jump's going to be up from Dimi.
Cooldown reduction comes in handy there. iRaffer on the rotation now, has his Intoxicate available as well, and Marauder was thinking about diving with Shattered instead. They're looking for the Thor, and Thor is dead.
And iRaffer now going to look for the stun on Marauder as well, trying to get the Mink form, and he does get it just barely. Should be able to space himself, but Adapting going under the tower finds the slow, and there it is. Adapting coming up with this second kill of the game. Marauder thought he was out. I think Panthera thought he was out outside of Adapting.
They're actually going to get the tier 1 tower on the right-hand side here. Meanwhile, iRaffer's just keeping him busy in the mid lane. They were looking at rotating to try and defend that or get involved, and instead, they have to limp back to their own side of the map.
This is a little sloppy coming out from enemy, in all honesty, and now PandaCat here could be forcing this 1v1. He is going to ult and jump forward, but Kaldier's right on top of him, slowing him down.
Respect the PandaCat. He will go in and he will fight. He's fought against
He still wants this. 2 seconds.
Ricochet. Doesn't
just
find
off
it.
the mark.
Looking for it. He's still considering going in here, but look at this rotation coming out from Panthera now. And you can see the enemy's trying to slow them down just in case they can catch Panda.
And Kaldir was on him the whole time, so if PandaCat stopped for 1 second, would have started getting shredded by the dog. Gold Fury is started. iRaffer, though, his Wrath is down, so he's got to jump early. He needs to make this reset happen.
He's taking a lot of free poke from that one, but he does force the reset, as you said, and Adapting and Dimi on the front side actually going to make sure Shattered ults as well.
That's going to be useless, though.
To make sure he disengages.
No one's in position, so he's going to have to land very safe, and that's just what he does. Over in the dual lane, Dimi actually rotated over and just going to take some poke, and this Xing 10 is so tanky right now. I think he's building into a Warlock Sash.
Do you reckon it's all Gem of
Probably
Isolation, maybe?
But I'm a little bit surprised that he would build Gem this early. That's the only thing I would be confused about. I figured he would have probably wanted to tank up, but I guess with just his base levels, he doesn't need it.
Gem gives you some damage, as well as it does give you
A little bit of health,
which is another thing that you really want from the solo lane tankiness. So we'll see how it works out. Hunters, though, still going at it. PandaCat wants to fight, and tell you what, emilitoo's not someone to really back down, but he's in a world of hurt here. The trade is very even, and Kaldier's coming into play, but so are the side of enemy. PandaCat gets the kill, and it's only iRaffer here. He's got reinforcements coming from the jungle, though.
It looks like Khaos is going to be there to zone, and PandaCat, he's going to be fine for now. Does get intoxicated. Here comes Dimi in the jump as well. Nimalt on to PainDeViande. They're on different targets. Pain, he ulted his Hunter, and now he's actually still going to be able to get out.
Yammyn a little bit too late to this fight now, and in the end, he's going to disengage for the most part. Panthera do not find a return kill, and it's not often you get to see that in a commentary.
And that was a full rotation. All 5 members of Panthera show up in the dual lane. Still, somehow, PandaCat and Pain get away. Pain specifically, I love that he ulted his Hunter because he figured he was going to die anyway. Still somehow sneaks through the crevices from Panthera.
I think the call from Panthera, though, to go for Khepri was wise. I think
that was a good call.
Was on cooldown, so they should have gone for Khepri. They just didn't have the damage to secure him, and in the end, PandaCat comes out on top.
And Khepri is one of the easier Guardians to gank, which at first you wouldn't think that because he has a revive, but if Khepri is forced to pop the revive on himself, he's not going to be moving across the map to, replace himself, where if a Khepri ults someone else, they go straight to him. So because of that, once that ultimate pops, he's going to be standing right there waiting for you.
Now, Enemy and Panthera have played before. We keep saying it, but the difference is there's 3 different members in the lineup of Enemy this time, and I don't think emilitoo's ever met anyone like PandaCat who will go ham just as much as he will.
I mean, maybe Zatman, but Zatman's kind of Zatman is the original ham hunter.
And he's
kind of toned it down.
I was going to say, he's become a lot more controlled in his bursts of aggression now, but PandaCat, he's like the Zatman of old. He will go all the way, and you could see that he's quite happy to do that. And he relies on PainDeViande like Khepri to get him out.
The Khepri is the perfect god for PandaCat as a hunter because he can go as deep as he wants, and he still gets a guaranteed revive as long as Pain isn't slow.
A lot of damage on emilitoo, but the slippy slide comes into play. emilitoo going to get bombed one more time, and Marauder taunts him in. But a circle of protection from Yammyn will help him out, as well as the ultimate from emilitoo.
Oh, Khepri also there. PainDeViande finding the revive onto Marauder. Didn't know that his heal was about to go off, so a wasted ultimate, a wasted Scarab's Blessing. And now Panthera could look to force this, but enemy's baiting it. Shattered in the sky, looking to land on a couple targets here. He's got a couple options, and it's going to be Yammyn.
He's going to go down and look for it, but immediate purification and silence in response from Yammyn. Shattered forced to disengage. Meanwhile, Adapting picks up PandaCat, and they're looking for more of Marauder.
Dimi so deep in the fight, found 2 in the knockup, and there's Marauder as well, isolated from the rest of his team. Adapting's found 2, sprint popped by enemy. They have to get out. The call is to bail right now, but the counter sprint from Panthera, nowhere to go for Khaos. He's going to fall eventually. The Sanctuary keeps him alive for just a second, but the Wrath stun is good, and Adapting comes up with the triple.
And the tier 1 tower will fall down as well in favor of Panthera, even before the Gold Fury is looked at here. Shattered just trying to clear out the wave and slow them down, but he can't do much, and Adapting's going to make sure that he runs all the way away. Teleport used, though, by Shattered there, just to make sure he gets all the way out.
I mean, there's no stun on to Adapting, so he can't stop it there. Gold Fury is going to be picked up cleanly after that fight. Panthera now leading 8-2 in kills, as well as 4,000 gold. Finds the Furious Roar, finds the knockup. PainDeViande trapped in his own tower. And Adapting steals the kill.
Goodbye,
what a
sweet
scumbag.
prince. I mean,
What
you don't get
Dimi had that.
Listen, you don't get top kills in the league if you don't take a couple of those, okay? That's what you got to do. Meanwhile, though, when you mentioned Dimi there, Ethereal Staff is what he picked up here. Didn't go for Gem, didn't go for Wall.
I haven't seen that item in so long, I completely forgot about it.
Because it took a lot of nerfs, honestly. It wasn't as strong as it once was.
And really, the only person who ever picked it up were the Zhangqi and the Xing 10, but Xing 10 seems to be back at least in Dimi's God pool. So, got to give him a good boost to health as well as convert some of that health into magical power.
Do see some interesting items coming out from Panthera, though, all through the whole team, really. We do see the Transcendence and a Chins online for emilitoo. No Executioner. He's rushed this Chins a little bit earlier. The Ass is the only sustain he's going to have on this.
He loves this build. He really seems to commit to this, and you know, a lot of hunters will tell you about, you know, the math and builds, but I mean, this is something that emilitoo has gone back to, and it's very good against frontlines specifically. A lot of penetration and the passive from Asi.
They're trying to catch Panda here. Raffer's on the rotation too, but he's not going to be in range in time. Meanwhile, rotation for Dimi's on point.
Rotation.
And Dimi's in a bit of trouble here. Picks up 3, throws them away, and says, "Good night, boys. I'm going home."
Is enemy? I almost thought enemy was still going to fight that, but all members just grouping up. They had their purification up, but it wasn't worth burning. What they did get off of that was Dimi's ult, which if a fight breaks out and that's not there,
they're
very
going to
helpful.
dive left-hand side here. Panda under pressure, already leaps and decides to go on emilitoo. Suns are down, but there's a Nemesis ult in response. PandaCat has the ultimate from Khepri on him, so they don't continue to focus. Meanwhile, Adapting gets a lot of tower aggro there after the pull from PainDeViande.
He's got to reset, but in goes Adapting and Dimi as well. Dimi finds one. He's going to be focusing on Marauder in the backline here. PainDeViande just trying to keep his team alive.
Meanwhile, Adapting goes in again, looking at Marauder, who's still very tanky. The rest of Panthera focusing on their major objective, which was tier 1, but Dimi's in trouble.
Oh, Shattered's in the sky, though. He's going to land on a couple options. Sprint comes down. It's Yammyn who gets his Ice Assault off and heals up, and the turnaround, but the Chaos, he finds a 3-man stun.
Everyone is still alive, but for how much longer? Shattered is the first to fall. Dimi will survive the tower shot as Adapting's
in the tower?
He's still in the tower range. Does have to purify to get away from PainDeViande.
How does no one die on the side of Panthera? Look at their health bars. There's only one person in the yellow, emilitoo, just somehow weaving out a little bit extra damage, but that was so close to enemy, finding a full-on deicide instead. They lose 2 members.
Well, they do keep the tier 2 tower alive just about there, but a crazy play, and once again, anytime it's a skirmisher done, all you'll ever see is Panthera is so good at controlling them.
Just think if Dimi had his ult up in that fight. He had it burned on the solo side. If his ult is up, that fight probably goes cleanly in Panthera's favor. I'm not talking 2 kills, I'm talking 3 or 4.
Well, the Gold Fury currently down on the left-hand side there. PainDeViande just going to ward it, head back to base one more time here. Has Sovereignty and Hide of the Urchin online, so continue to work on his build. Looks like he's going for some more, probably Heart of the Amulet. Sorry, Heart Ward Amulet.
Heart Ward
I couldn't even think of the word.
That's fine. Words are hard. We're
late
into the night right now. It's 10. We've been here since, what, 9? So
it's 10. Wow.
We've been here 13 hours, and it's
so
okay,
bad.
though. We're fine.
It's a good day.
Enemy's not fine, though. Panthera have stretched a pretty decent lead on them, about 5,000 gold, but this isn't a impossible comeback. We've seen enemy stay very close and almost find some kills.
Though, because it looks like they're going to go all in on Marauder here. Marauder's in a lot of trouble, surrounded, isolated, alone, and his teammate Shattered just has to walk away. Well, walk away, ult away.
Oh, he gets wrapped!
And he gets wrapped by Raffer to stop him escaping. Look at the bombs from Khaos are on point to disengage, and Khaos has to leave too, but that Raff was hot.
That was a perfect wall as well from Shattered. If that's in any different position, he probably gets picked off. Really good job from Raffer, wrapping out that hammer. No teleport allowed, and because of that, we saw a lot of ults burned as well to keep Shattered alive.
Skadi keeps getting knocked. No, poor Skadi, look at him!
Kaldir.
I didn't know Kaldir did that, but he just like floats in the air.
I didn't know he got knocked up either. Dimi just gonna ult the speed buff. That's when you know. That's when you know you're in the lead. If you can burn an ult on a speed buff, Fire Giant on all 5 players of Panthera, and enemy looking a little disjointed, right? You don't really see these players get picked off that often.
He looks very similar to the game they played against Thor as well, let's be honest here. It looked very reminiscent of that one, and enemy did end up coming back after that one, but so far so good for Panthera, continuing winning ways, at least in this game. They've got a couple of tier 2 towers to take down next with this Fire Giant buff. Obviously a bit of gold in their coffers as well to go back and spend, so expect them to just, you know, use it wisely.
Enemy, though, they do have this Thor, right? And Shattered's picked up the teleport, which is a very Annenster style of play. I would really like to see enemy look to find split push opportunities and just base race with Panthera. Because if you just try and take the fight and lose it, it's game over at that point.
Well, Gold Fury started up here by Panthera again, and PainDeViande the first one to probably recognize it, but he won't be able to do anything alone here on that Khepri. And the unfortunate thing is, that's the issue with the Khepri, right? I mean, you can't engage, really. You're only on peel for your team. You've got to rely on your teammates.
And that's what Shattered's here for, but he just hasn't been able to stay alive when he does engage. And Panthera have such a beautiful counter-engage comp. Not only the Bacchus Intoxicate, but Isis as well.
Well, iRaffer was keeping PandaCat busy for a minute. Now he comes over the wall with the Belch, connected with the Marauder, but all they were after really was a tier 2 tower, and they got what they came for. And now
PandaCat.
They're looking for Panda.
He actually was forced to purify that slow there, so still managed to get out just barely, but no purification for 160 seconds. And
Shattered,
adapting,
though,
his ult's going to be up pretty soon.
While this is going on, Shattered is split pushing to victory too. He's going to get a tier 2 tower answered back on the right-hand side here. Somebody needs to go back soon, otherwise he will look at this Phoenix if they keep fighting.
This is the Anister, right? You get teleport on Thor, you split push perfectly, and look at this. He's going to bait adapting back to the base. All of Panthera have to stop their siege, and Shattered's already gone. He had no plans on split pushing.
This is a chance for enemy to go aggressive, and they're going to taunt iRaffer in, but he does get away just in time. And the whole plan here was to isolate and push back Panthera and then try and turn on them, and that's what they're going to do. Raffer's low.
Shattered's made the rotation as well. He's up in the sky, and he's going to come down, completely whiffs, but emilitoo all by himself. Adapting's jumped in, but Im's already fallen right now. And enemy, they're going to hold against this Fire Giant push for now.
We've talked about their tactics, and that's one thing enemy have going for them here. Shattered split push, split them, and stop them getting a Phoenix. So Panthera now, with that member dead, and only a minute left roughly on the Fire Giant buff, it should be a reset here.
And Pain actually trying to steal the red buff, but Dimi's going to tell him no. And this game is only 8,000 gold separate, but enemy tactically there just outplayed Panthera. We saw the split push, Bates adapting back to base, and then after Shattered goes back, he actually teleports behind the Panthera members that are retreating, pinches them off, and they find the kill onto emilitoo.
I mean, it might be an 8,000 gold lead, but it's only 26 minutes in, which still shows this very significant. And that 10,000 experience is something you can't ignore at this stage, especially with multiple members of enemy still not level 20.
The big thing right now is getting Khaos to 20, because once Khaos has max rank on his bombs, that's going to increase his damage exponentially, and you can see he's working on that Rod of Tahuti as well. If enemy can hold out and make this game even until that Tahuti comes online, it's going to be much easier for them to win these fights, and more importantly, clean up kills, because Panthera are escaping on low health multiple times.
I'm just looking at builds as well, and Crit is online for PandaCat now. You can see he's got a Rage online working on the Wind Demon too. Meanwhile, his lane opponent, emilitoo, on that Skadi, he's actually looking like he's going for the Odysseus bow here. Or is it a very late Iqval?
I think it's going to be an Odysseus bow. Panthera actually ran a lot of that at DreamHack, and they ran double hunters. They ran double chin size, double Odysseus bows, and they shredded any front line that jumped on them.
Well, looks like they're just going to go back to that one more time. But this time round, they've got an Isis in the mid lane. Yammyn's had a great tournament so far, I will say. As has adapting most of Panthera for the most part.
Adapting has had a phenomenal tournament, right? A couple kill steals here or there, you know, against Dimi, but it is adapting, and, you know, everyone talks about him for a good reason.
Funny enough, he's gone crit this game as well. He's actually picked up a Wind Demon, and it looks like he's building towards what more than likely will be a Deathbringer here as well to go alongside it. Quite surprised.
Yeah, and I kind of like this, right? Because the Wind Demon itself, while it is a proc-based item and not as, you know, quote-unquote DPS efficient, just having that extra movement speed along with the Wing Blade and the Stone Cutting Sword, adapting's going to go fast. And I mean really fast.
Like lightning.
Like, without even having it done right now, he has, what, 550 movement speed?
I mean, his favorite god is Mercury after all, right? So why not just make Nemesis Mercury? A more viable Mercury right now.
Maybe that's what he's going for. You just can't mage a look. You can only dash forward, poke, and then dash out.
Well, Panthera currently set up for the Fire Giant here. They're currently zoning away. Dimi's on the left-hand side, being a nuisance towards Shattered, stopping any sort of split push shenanigans, especially because he's got teleport still waiting.
They both have teleport, importantly, and this is who has to defend this, because I think Marauder just loses against Dimi straight up and gets poked out. Shattered has a chance. You can see him juking out there as effectively as possible.
Well, I mean, if you can force a purification, that'll come in handy for his team, but instead he takes a lot of free poke there.
That's really good for enemy.
One thing,
Dimi's ult is down.
Oh, meanwhile, the Fire Giant might be down too. The Wrath is available. The Wrath is not going to go down. Actually, they still get it though to Panthera. Just about surprised. We didn't see it come out a little bit earlier.
But look at this. I mean, Adapting's got to get out. The sprint is popped as well. iRaffer by himself is going to find the stun. He's going to get rooted in place. He's going to stay alive for now. Barely managed to jump over the wall. The root. Oh, it was so close. Probably wouldn't have killed either way, but a nice attempt from Pain.
Not with the Fire Giant buff on him as well. And you can actually see Wrath here. He told me to mention it because we didn't mention it earlier on. He's using the enemy jersey on Bacchus.
Oh.
Rude.
The disrespeckies.
Disrespeckies.
You can't disrespeckies here in Pecky's house. Shattered off the mark once again, and this is a real large commit onto a tanky
Dimi.
Xing.
And instead it's going to be PainDeViande that gets turned, and now Marauder's looked at as well, and he's going to fall too. Two quick kills
That might be
for
game.
Panthera, and it was enemy going aggressive onto a tank.
That was definitely misled. And look at this, Dimi has teleported in between. Khaos going to be forced to purify. Looking
Good
for the
stun.
stun. It is going to be good, but he's slowed down by adapting. The crit is huge damage. Great wall, but adapting kills him with the
Shield.
reflect on the flame dash.
The shield is so painful to have to deal with as an Agni player. Those dots just reflect back at you, and PandaCat is on his own here against trying to defend the Phoenix.
I don't think I've ever seen someone kill like that. Adapting, though, looking for more. He's going to be taking up this Phoenix. Is going to get a little bit of regen from that shield, and the first Phoenix of the game has fallen.
Well, Paradigm will be watching right now and hoping that Panthera can close both these next two games out, so they'll go to finals tomorrow. But for now, Panthera already made it through. And if enemy find the next game as well, you know, if they find a split here, at least, I mean, they'll actually face off against Paradigm later today.
Paradigm's going to have to come back from the hotel if enemy can find game 2, or for some ungodly reason win this game, because it does not seem too likely. They're down 15-3 in kills, over 10,000 gold. They've already lost 2 Phoenixes. But it is 30 minutes in.
I mean,
we are late game.
They clean that tier 2 tower with iRaffer tanking and no minions. Thor's in the sky, though, dunking on iRaffer again, and Dimi, who's their front line, and now the damage dealers of Panthera, there to support their supports.
Pain's actually trying to force this pick right now because the team of Panthera has actually split up, 2 on the right-hand side, the rest going into the jungle, but he's not able to connect on anyone he wants. He does get the purification outside of emilitoo, but it was really important for enemy to find some sort of kill there.
It's been a while, though, but still, Panthera is going to be a tough ask for enemy to get back into this one now. With 2 Phoenixes down, Fire Giant buff still on these guys for another minute. They've got time to go back to base. And enemy's just going to make one big play. They're just going to go for it now, I think, to have a chance.
Very important here is that Khaos should be very close to finishing his farm for Rod of Tahuti. He's got about 1,000 in hand, and he also has his Vamp Shroud. So once he sells that, he will have Rod of Tahuti online. That's going to be a massive power spike. Can we actually highlight over him and see the difference in damage we get from that?
I mean, he needs 1,420 gold.
330 right now.
To finish it.
He has enough to finish it.
He does if he sells that Vamp Shroud.
I just want to see the spike. It should be, you know, 500 something off of that, which those bombs are going to do so much more damage after he picks it up.
He doesn't actually pick it up again, though. He's going to hold on to the Vamp Shroud instead. Not going to go for the Rod of the Hootie.
Wait, he could. Okay, he forgot to. I think Khaos forgot that he could sell it for Rod of Tahuti.
But while that's going on now,
he's not going to be in position.
Panthera's doing. They're going to be here down the right side. Shatter's recalling back to base. Panthera on the final Phoenix because they saw Shattered there, and now the aggression's going to come out.
Shattered in the sky,
but the Phoenix still getting lower. There's the dunk, and a lot of pressure means emilitoo's going to die, but so is the Phoenix.
Enemy are winning this fight right now. Look at this, Dimi. He's going to be forced to zone, but he picks up 2 straight into the ice open, and then knock up as well. Adapting finds the first kill. Yammyn finds the second. PandaCat does manage to answer back, though.
And now the belch comes out from iRaffer, looking at PandaCat, and he's not too worried. Panda just he's going to go in and find a double kill onto Yammyn. Now surrounded by the Guardians, the only 2 left standing on the side of Panthera. But you know what? It doesn't matter because the Titan is under pressure from fire minions. Shattered and Khaos have to go
win.
iRaffer could do this alone.
I mean, it's iRaffer with 3 fire waves. He's only got 2 right now, but the 3rd on the right. And look at this. Panthera are looking for the win right now, but they need to find some weakness in enemy. They're just going to be pushing up the waves for now. And look at this, just these fire minions just piling into the base.
Really interesting fight between the 2, but still Panthera technically come out on top with that Phoenix going down now. All 3 of them down. You can see it's going to be a good couple of minutes until any one of them respawn.
Dimi has just been so efficient, not only this game, but even in game, even the first game he played Xing. It is very... It's not very often you see Xing get multiple, you know, multi-man throws. And he's got it 3, 4, maybe even 5 times this match. That fight was going to be 100% in enemy's favor until Dimi forced 2 into iRaffer's knockup in Yammyn's ult.
When I'm looking at the team as well, there's only 3 purification on the side of enemy anyway. And if he just waits it out, I mean, he can stay on the front line for days if he needs to. And the one moment they probably think they're going to win a fight, what ends up happening? Well, the washing machine of death turns up.
And shout-outs to enemy, though, overall, just for holding on as long as they can. We have not seen a 3 Phoenix down comeback in a very long time, but enemy are holding out hope.
Enemy never surrender either, and they will always go for the late game, hope for one big play, and maybe this is the chance. The Fire Giants just respawn.
I said it at the beginning. This team is very hard to close out against. Enemy will fight until the last second, until the last health on their Titan. They never give up, and you're seeing it here.
Well, they never give up, but I don't think the Fire Giant's going to really give them any sort of hope here as Caldeir getting knocked around in the pit is the most thing that getting damaged on the side of Panthera right now.
Enemy have to force a fight before their Phoenixes. If they take a fight in their own Titan room, it's game over. Panthera just have too much guaranteed AoE damage, especially on the slices. They need to initiate now. They cannot wait. They cannot wait until the siege happens.
Well, let's see what they do here, the side of Panthera. They're actually going to go and strip the jungle here. Bit of Cyclone Spin coming out of Adapting here, taking the red buff instead of ending the game.
I mean, he just crit for 1182.
I mean, it's a minion, though. That
was
count.
before red buff.
Doesn't count as
now
a minion.
He has red buff.
Remember that. It's a minion. Doesn't count.
Dimi zoning out on the left-hand side. iRaffer just pushing up these fire creeps, just trying to get as much pressure onto these weakened Phoenixes as possible.
But where do they defend is the question from enemies. Is it left? Is it middle?
They can't wait.
Shatter's in middle on his own up against Adapting here, and Adapting gets the crits and forces him out. The Phoenix still stands, and the rest of Panthera now turn up to make sure they get it.
Popped the Sanctuary, though. Really good reaction from Adapting. Probably dies if he gets hit by that last bomb. And now it's an engage on the left-hand side. Dimi looking to spin to win. Finds one. It's PainDeViande plucked. The rest of the team is back, though, still defending the Phoenix.
Marauder's in a lot of trouble here, getting to get ulted by PainDeViande, but he's in the circle of protection, and he's going to pop the ultimate from PainDeViande. Still on the back, though, is iRaffer flopping in one more time. The boys of enemy trying to make a last-ditch stand against the world champions Panthera in game one, but I don't think they've got it in them.
PainDeViande's going to fall. Only 4 members left standing, but the fire minions are raining in the Titan room, and this is going to be game one. Panthera finds the win and breathes a little bit of hope into Paradigm. Paradigm are not going home just yet. They're guaranteed to either make the finals if Panthera find this last win, or that tiebreaker match against enemy if they can find the return game.
But that'll come down to game two, obviously. That was a good performance from Panthera for the most part. A little bit delayed in the way the slow pace of ending, but it's more respect for their opposition, I feel.
And enemy played that fantastically as well, just for how far they were behind, right? 10, 12,000 gold near the end. They were still able to hold out. Emilitoo won that last fight. We didn't really get much time to break it down, but once the hard engage happened, you saw him and Yammyn both isolated by themselves. He pops the ultimate, and then roots 2 people instantly and completely stops the engage.
So I'm looking at the squad there of enemy, and they've been through the rough, they've been through the smooth before, they're a very passionate team here. What's the issue with the picks and bans in this one? Because I'm looking at it, I'm like, was the Agni the issue?
I mean, they lost so much.
Was Shatter just not on par right now?
Well, Shatter definitely didn't perform where he normally does. We saw so many missed Thor ultimates, as well as some questionable decisions where he would go up in the sky. I'm thinking specifically one of those mid-game mid-lane team fights where he kind of just waited. He had 2 players lined up, but he was waiting for like this perfect opportunity instead of just coming back down. So not a lot of comfortability coming out of Shattered this game, but the Agni, it's got to be looked at. We saw it do a lot of work in the late game, but the team got so far behind because they just didn't have that pressure.
And Adapting there, you saw him on the screen just chatting with the Panthera boys, and good performance from him again on the Nemesis. We've seen 2 good Nemesis performances today. This one and the one Aninsta did earlier on today as well. I mean, Nemesis is really shining this tournament, and it's been a while since I've been able to say that.
Once Nemesis came back into the meta, we saw these junglers slowly adapt to her, but now that they're so used, we're just seeing all these intricate kills, and I really hope we see the reflect kill on the Agni Flame Dash, because that was absolutely absurd. That was my favorite play of this tournament so far. Here it is.
It's
just watch this.
Play. Basically, all he does is step in the path of flames, and the shield was actually on. It was
already on.
It wasn't intentional.
Doesn't matter.
But it was great.
It's still the hottest play of this tournament coming out of Adapting right there, and just look at that.
Wait for the
13.5 KDA.
Wave Adapting. Wave.
No headset on. We know you can hear us.
I know you can hear me.
We know you can hear us. Adapting wave.
No, he doesn't want it.
He's not. There it is. Okay.
About time. Jeez, you got all these fans watching you at home going, he's
so
the best.
unenthusiastic. Look at Yammyn too. There we go.
There you go. He blows a kiss for his fans too. That's nice. That was for me, really.
No, that was for me.
No,
I called him Adapt King on Twitter earlier.
It was for me.
He's Adapt King.
It was for me. You're North American.
It's the greatest. Oh, see, that was to me. That was to me.
Yammyn do it too.
Yammyn is the world's MVP.
The world's MVP, and well, it's the world's MVP and the MVP of the EU split.
We heard Snoopy talking about Yammyn earlier too. He's just, we were talking about Adapting, what it's like to play against him, because Snoopy is the only member on Thor who hadn't faced off against Panthera just yet.
Yeah.
And he was just saying, he's the one that everyone's talking about, and then he's like, but Yammyn's absolutely insane. He just hits everything, and I don't know how he does it.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, Lobster, who plays against these guys all the time, turned around and said, when you play against Panthera, you have to expect them to hit everything.
That's so hard to play against.
Because they do.
It's so hard to play against. Everything's got to be perfect there. And Khaos, on this Agni, hasn't really been able to get anything rolling in the early games. I'd like to see him switch up into a different god at this point.
I don't know if it's the Agni, though. I don't think the Agni is really a big issue. For me, personally,
I don't think it's a
fine.
big issue. I just think it gets out-pressured so much.
I think his bombs have been on point. His stuns have really come in handy for disengaging the fights or even initiating for his team, where when you've got a Khepri in your lineup, you kind of need some extra control.
I mean, maybe a Hunbats in that last game would have been better instead of the Thor.
It provides the same sort. I mean, it provides technically less CC. Well, Fear No Evil, right, versus a Thor Dunk, which is a stun, and the Wall, which
Outside
is a stun.
of the multiple stuns, the Fear No Evil is unmatched in the CC department.
It's great, but if you
it's
purify it,
unmatched.
we're not going to get